He's one of the most famous mountain men of the American West, a figure of rugged courage and brutal survival, immortalized on the silver screen by Robert Redford. But was the real Jeremiah Johnson the peace-seeking man we saw in the movies? Or was he something far, far more savage? The legends surrounding John Liver-Eating Johnson paint a picture of a man whose reality was steeped in violence and a quest for revenge that chills the blood. Today, we're journeying back to the untamed wilderness of the 19th century to uncover the man behind the myth. We'll explore the terrifying stories that earned him his gruesome nickname and see just how much darker the reality was compared to the Hollywood tale. If you enjoy exploring the raw, unfiltered history of the Old West and Native American stories, make sure you hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. You won't want to miss this. The story begins with a man likely born as John Garrison in New Jersey around 1824, though some researchers even argue his name was William Garrison. His early life is a bit of a mystery, maybe with some time spent on a whaling ship before joining the U.S. Navy, but his Navy career ended abruptly. He reportedly struck a superior officer, a serious offense, and to escape punishment, he deserted. He fled west, changed his name to John Johnston, sometimes spelled Johnson, and began the process of reinventing himself. The West was a land of second chances, and Johnston was writing his own, often bloody chapter. Life on the frontier wasn't just about trapping, despite what the movies might show. Johnston was a man who did whatever it took to survive. He was a hunter and trapper, yes, but he also cut wood for steamboats, dug for gold in Montana, worked as a guide, and even dabbled in selling whiskey. He served the U.S. Army as a scout during the Civil War and later in conflicts with various tribes. In his later years, he even became a lawman, serving as a deputy sheriff and town marshal in Montana towns like Red Lodge. This was a man of many trades, an opportunist shaped by the harsh realities of the West, far from the solitary figure seeking peace in the film. He learned his mountain skills from experienced men, like the legendary old John Hatcher. Physically, Johnston was a giant of a man. Accounts describe him as standing between 6'2" and 6'5", weighing around 260 pounds, a truly imposing figure. His sheer size no doubt added to his fearsome reputation. But his personality was a puzzle. Some called him a jolly man, always ready with a practical joke. Others described him as surly, antisocial, uneducated, and brutal. One historian even called him a bizarre mountain man. Yet, strangely enough, in his old age in Red Lodge, local children reportedly adored him, calling him Dad. This contradiction, the brutal killer and the beloved old man, is part of what makes him so fascinating. But what about that nickname, Liver-Eating? It's the most shocking part of his story, and its origins are as murky as a mountain stream. The most famous story, pushed by the book Crow Killer, claims it came from his supposed war against the Crow tribe. The legend says that after his flathead wife was killed by Crow warriors, Johnson swore vengeance and began killing them, consuming the livers of his victims. However, a different, perhaps more believable story suggests the name came from a single incident during a fight with the Sioux in 1868. In this version, Johnson stabbed a Sioux warrior, and when he pulled his knife back, a piece of the man's liver was stuck to it. As a kind of dark battlefield humor, he pretended to take a bite and offered some to his friends. Johnson himself apparently denied ever actually eating it, saying it was unintentional. This accidental liver story fits with his reputation as a practical joker. Regardless of how it started, many believe Johnson embraced the name. It was a powerful tool in a lawless land. The legend grew, claiming that the Crow believed the liver was needed for the soul to enter the afterlife, making the act a terrible desecration. While hard proof of this specific Crow belief is scarce, desecrating the dead was widely seen as a deep spiritual insult among many tribes. Whether he did it or just let people think he did, the name Liver-Eating made him a figure of terror, a reputation he even used in Wild West shows later in life, reportedly reenacting the act. The heart of the Johnson legend is his supposed decades-long war against the Crow. The story goes that in 1847, while he was away trapping, Crow warriors murdered his pregnant flathead wife, known as the Swan. This, they say, sparked a one-man war where Johnson killed hundreds, maybe even over 1,000 Crow warriors, scalping them and often taking their livers. He became a ghost, a nightmare figure the Crow couldn't stop. But how true is this epic tale of revenge? Researcher Dennis McClellan argues it's almost entirely fiction. He claims Johnson was likely serving in the Navy in 1847, not married in the mountains. McClellan also suggests the Crow were often friendly with Johnston, and his real enemies were more likely the Blackfoot and the Sioux. Other historians agree, cautioning that books like Crow Killer are not reliable historical accounts. The murdered wife story is powerful. It gives a reason for his brutality, turning him into an avenger instead of just a killer. Yet even many versions of the legend end with Johnson making peace with the Crow, calling them his brothers after 25 years of war. This ending, like the beginning, might be more story than history. Johnson's conflicts weren't limited to the Crow. One of the most horrifying tales involves the Blackfoot. Captured and set to be sold to the Crow, Johnson supposedly broke free, killed his guard, and then did the unthinkable. He cut off the guard's leg and carried it with him, eating it to survive a 200-mile trek to safety. It's a shocking story, but it's one that's also told about other tough mountain men, suggesting it might be a migratory legend, a terrifying tale that attached itself to men known for their toughness. Another story claims he eliminated 29 Blackfoot warriors with poisoned biscuits, calling it a practical joke. He also fought against the Sioux, serving as an Army scout during the Great Sioux War of 1876. These stories, true or not, were amplified over time. Books like Crow Killer sensationalized his life, painting him as part legend, part monster. While its accuracy is heavily debated, its impact was huge. Vardis Fisher's novel Mountain Man offered a slightly softer version, and this became the main inspiration for the 1972 movie. And then came Hollywood. Sidney Pollack's Jeremiah Johnson introduced the Mountain Man to the world, but it was a heavily romanticized version. They even changed his name to Jeremiah. The movie gave a clear reason for the Crow attack, Johnson guiding soldiers through a burial ground, and completely left out the liver eating. It created a reluctant hero, a man who wanted peace but was forced into violence. This made him more relatable, but it wasn't the full picture. Robert Redford's portrayal became iconic, so much so that he was a pallbearer when Johnston's body was moved to Cody, Wyoming in 1974. So was the real Johnson more savage than the movie? Absolutely. The legends claim he killed hundreds, a scale of violence the film barely hints at. The act of taking a liver, with its supposed spiritual implications, was a form of psychological terror the film completely avoided. And tales like the Blackfoot leg incident or the poisoned biscuits show a level of brutality and cold-bloodedness far beyond Redford's portrayal. The film shows a man reacting to violence. The legends describe a man who was violence, someone who perhaps even killed for the joy of killing. John Liver Eden. Johnson remains a puzzle, a man caught between history and folklore. How much is true and how much is tall tale or even self-promotion? We may never fully know. The real man was likely a tough survivor in a brutal time, but the legend, the liver eater, the avenger, the savage force of nature is what endures. It's a dark reflection of a violent era, a story far more savage than the movie ever dared to show. What do you think? Was John Johnson a misunderstood man, a brutal killer, or something in between? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look into the darker side of the Old West, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell for more stories from America's wild past. Thanks for watching.